Hello, I'm Elaine from Antelope Beads, and again, I'm excited to be here today. I am going to show you one of my favorite projects using Rollo box chain. Antelope Beads carries a couple different sizes, 4mm, 4.5mm, different looks depending on the size. And also there are just a bunch of different finishes. So all kinds of design options. This is also a great project for kids and teenagers, young people, tweens, teens. Love the look of these bracelets, and they are just really quite easy to make. I made a bunch with my 7-year-old niece a couple of years ago, and we just had a blast. So anyway, let's get started. Here we go. And I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to just talk a little bit about what I have here to start with. I have a couple different sizes of the box chain. This is a slightly bigger one. It's 4.5mm. It's an antique silver. And I also have some 4mm in copper. And I'm going to show you how to start this bracelet, and then we're going to talk about like 3 different ways to finish it, so you'll have lots of options in that regard. So for those of you that are just joining us, we are going to be making some box chain woven bracelets. Okay, so I'm going to just start by showing you how to start this project. And I do have some ball chain here. I'm not going to use it for this particular project, but I am going to talk about using ball chain in these woven bracelets. Really looks great, but Antelope Beads has some new sizes of ball chain, and I just want a chance to play with those before I give you any more information on that. So real simple bracelet would be, I'm going to take 2 strands, and these are about 6.5, 7 inches. 2 strands of the 4.5mm box chain, and then I'm going to use a 1.5mm leather to do the weaving with. So for 4.5mm chain, I'm going to use 1.5mm for the weaving, and I'll talk about the other one in just a sec. So, and I want to start with a pretty good piece of leather. I've got probably 6 feet here. This is not going to be a really wide bracelet, so I don't need quite as much as I would if I was going to make a super wide bracelet like this one. And I'm going to show you how to finish that in just a sec. So I'm going to start by going to thread both pieces of chain on the leather. Here we go. Okay. And then I'm going to center the leather. So I'll just go ahead, and I've got my 2 ends together and I'll just pull this up, and now I've got my 2 lengths of leather centered on the chain, So okay, got that so far. So we're going to start the weave, and I will start by taking one side of the leather, and I'm going to thread it through both loops just below the one I started with. Okay, and then I'm going to take the other side, and I'll thread it through the 2 loops in the opposite direction. There we go. Hang on, just so. And the with my niece, I will say that we took turns. She put the first length through, and I put the second length through because it's a little harder to do. So this is what I've got right now. Okay, just that, not very interesting. So I like to put something in the center. So for this particular project, I'm going to go ahead and put 2 lengths of 2mm leather, same color. I could change up the colors, and we've done that in a couple of other projects. So I'm going to go ahead and just put these in here. So what I'll do now is I just want to make sure you can see this. So I've got a little gap here. I've pulled those 2 lengths of chain apart, and I've got a little gap, and I'm going to put these 2 lengths of leather right between that gap and close it up. Okay, there we go. Okay, so this is what I've got right now. I've got these 2 pieces of leather, and I've got 1 length of the weaving leather on top and 1 on bottom. So to continue to weave, and I'm going to start another one as well. So here is the really important part of this project. You notice if I look at it from the side, I've got 1 piece is kind of on the top of the bracelet, and if I flip it over, 1 piece is sort of on the bottom. So whatever piece is on the bottom is, so this one's on the bottom, okay, and I just want to bring it up from the bottom and run it over the top. Okay, pull that nice and snug. Okay, and then it's the easiest thing to do is flip the bracelet over. This piece is now on the bottom, and I'm going to bring it over the top of the leather. And you don't have to worry too much about how it goes into the link. It's gonna position itself. But I just want to make sure that if it's on the bottom, it needs to go on the top, okay? And what that does is it gives me this nice, even edge where the rows are going sort of like herringbone, so they're nice and even edge. If you look at this one, you can just see the edge looks really, really good, clean, professional. So just continue to do that until you've reached the desired length. It's going to be about 1 inch to ½ inch shorter than the finished length of the bracelet. So I'm going to set this one aside for a sec, and I'll do one that's a little bit more involved. This one is, I'm going to use 3 lengths of 4mm antique copper chain. And let's see what we got here. I've got a couple of them that are shorter than others. That's okay, because we're just going to start this thing. Now, I cut the link right here when I cut the chain. So I need to get rid of that. This chain, believe it or not, has open links. So I can, hang on just a second, I can pull these links apart. They actually will open up and I can pull them apart. So I've got 3, and I'm not going to worry about what the bottom looks like right now, but 3 pieces of chain. I'm going to start it the same way. Now this is going to be quite a wide bracelet. So I have started with about 8 feet of 1mm leather. So if you are weaving with a 4mm chain, you are going to use 1mm leather. So here we go. I'm going to thread all 3 lengths of chain onto this bracelet. Okay, and I've just got the 2 ends together. I'm going to pull these, and it's quite a little bit of leather here, so might have to untangle it a little bit. Come on there. Oh, good. I got a real knot right there. Let's get that out of there. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So now I've got 3 pieces of chain on this leather. So I'll start exactly the same way I did with the other one. I will take one side, okay, and I'm going to thread the leather down through all 3 loops on the other side, pull it through. Hello, Sandy, how are you? I am so happy to see you. Well, I'm not seeing you, but yes, okay. And here we go. Gonna do another. Whoop, now this is something that happens. You see I made a boo-boo here. I actually came through not that first link, but the second link. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull that out real quick. And course, it looks like a big mess when you start these things. Get it through the right link, okay? Okay. And once you start these, they really go pretty fast. Just a little klutzy to start with. So this is what I've got so far. I've got one side through the chain. There we go. And then I'm going to take the other end. And again, I'm using pretty long lengths of leather. And I'm going to thread that leather back through all 3 links. Okay. So now what I've got is this. And I will tell you that a lot of people will just let this be the bracelet. You know, 3 or 5 lengths of chain just woven back and forth with leather. Again, you know, I think we can sort of enhance that a little bit. So I'm going to pull these links apart. Okay, and again, I've got that little, if I turn it up, you see I've got this little, I'll have this little space right here. Let's see if I can just kind of do a better job showing that to you. Here we go. So it's just a little space right here. Same thing on the other side. And I'm going to do something really wild here. I've got some 1.5 millimeter leather, and I am going to put 3 pieces between each loop here. I'm going to put a peach on either side. I've got a peach and a pink. These are not the, these are just a regular leather. But one thing I just love about this leather cord is just, I mean, it's like paint. You have so many colors to pick from. So I've got all 3 of those pieces through one side, okay? And I'm gonna, and you notice I've cut this outside leather pretty long, probably 8 or 9 inches. And the reason for that is that there's some of the closures will actually use the ends of the leather. So I've got my pink, peach on each side. Come on, where are you? There you are, okay? Line these up, okay? And I'm going to put those through the other side. Here we go. So I'm going to just spread that out. And I am going to put those into that little space right between the leathers. Here we go. Come on. There we go. Okay. And then I'm going to just go ahead and pull these 2 sides snug. And this thing really is going to stay pretty well put. There we go. So I'm going to do one more weaving. So I see this side is on the bottom. So I'm going to bring it up over the top. And I'm going to run it through loop number 1 over the leather, loop number 2 over the leather, loop number 3 over the leather. Pull that. Okay, and then I'm going to flip it over because it's just the easiest thing to do. And again, this side now is on the bottom, so I will run that through again. And here we go. 1, 2. Okay. Whoops, come on. And so the second side is just a little trickier, but not much. You know, it doesn't take long to get the hang of this. So I'm just going to, I can keep weaving that. Okay. So here, this is what this piece is going to look like. Pretty wild. Lots of leather, and it's just going to be, you know, really pretty nice. So, okay. So, and again, I've got my weaving going so that it's going to continue in that herringbone fashion up the side. It looks like I kind of messed up my first one, but I'm not too worried about it. This one looks like it's perfect. Here we go. Okay. All right. So I'm going to set that aside, and we're going to talk about finishing these bracelets. Okay. So I have got 3 different methods for finishing this, and they kind of go from really simple to more elegant, we can use a lobster clasp, we can use a magnetic clasp, and we can also use one of these 3-ring or and some of the clasps are even wider with multiple rings, magnetic clasps. So bunch of different options here. So I'm going to start with this really wild one I've got here. I've used 3 rows of the 4.5 millimeter chain, 1.5 millimeter natural leather, and then I used actually 3 different shades of brown in the middle. So here's this one. Okay, so this is what I've got at the end here, and I could trim these little leather ends right flush with the top of those loops, and I could glue a magnetic clasp right on here. Believe it or not, that chain link, in fact, I think I'll trim those and show you what that would look like. I didn't have and this is a 25 millimeter flat magnetic clasp. Okay, there it is. I can glue it right in there. And for this particular, come on, I know you're going to go. We know you're going to go because you just went in. There we go. Okay, so there we go. So so that's what that would look like. Really clean, really elegant. Same thing on the other side. I'm going to show you something a little bit different when we get to that side. And for this particular project, for this type of ending, I would definitely use the gel super tight glue, not the regular red top glue. Okay, so there's that. Okay, but say we don't have a magnetic clasp, we want to do something different. So what I can do is just use a series of jump rings to make a loop on one side and attach this on the other side. So I will, I think I've got some 8 millimeter jump rings here, maybe, and sometimes you just have to fiddle with the size a little bit. So first of all, I'm going to cut these ends off like this, and I've already trimmed my center ends. There we go. So I've cut those off, and I'm going to glue those. Put a little tiny bit of the super tight glue there. Okay, little tiny bit. The natural leathers tend to discolor a little bit with the glue, so I try to use as little as I can. So we got that. So now I'm going to just sort of see what my options are. I've got some 6 millimeter jump rings, 4 millimeter jump rings. So I think I'll go ahead and try an 8 millimeter jump ring. Okay, and I'll put one here. I'm going to just attach it right here to this last loop. Close that. And I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. And I'm using an 8 millimeter ring. I'm just guessing that I'm going to need a pretty wide ring. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I've got these 2 rings here. Now if I bring these together with another 8 millimeter ring, hang on, let me get these guys apart. Here we go. Hello, Michelle, how are you? Okay, and here's this. And it's a tight fit, but it's gonna go. Okay, so I've got these rings, and that looks actually pretty clean. Let me get my other pair of, whoops. I've got round nose pliers. I'll use whatever I can here. Come on there. I should really have flat nose pliers, and I don't right this minute, so just use whatever you've got. Come on there, you. There. Okay, so I've got that together. So that's what that looks like. 2 rings on the top, and then this. Okay, and then I want my clasp to lay flat. So for that center ring, I think I'm going to go ahead and use 2 4 millimeter rings to attach the clasp to that 8 millimeter ring. So here's ring number 1, ring number 2, and I'm using 2 rings. Adds a little bit of extra strength. I sometimes just like the way that a double ring looks, especially with things like, involving chainmail, and that definitely goes in there. But I don't want you to go through the other ring, so let me get that out again. Here we go. There. Okay. There we go. Okay, so I've got the clasp attached on one side. There we go. And it's laying to the side where I want it. And then the other side, I actually have already attached 3 rings, like sort of now, and you notice that these rings are sort of going, these rings go right across the top. These rings more go flat against the bracelet, and it's just because we're dealing with the links going in 2 different directions. Not a problem. And for my loop, I would use, I might, if I had it, I'd probably use a 10mm jump ring. But before I do that, let's trim all this stuff off here. So I'm going to trim this flush with the top of the chain. I need to get my good cutters here. I don't know where those other guys came from. Come on there. There we go. Okay. I just love that really, really precise cut. So I've got that there. And of course this is where I started, so I don't have any ends to put in. And I could just add another jump ring here. Like I said, if I had it, I'd probably use a 10mm jump ring. Okay. There we go. I'll just add this like this. This is like that. And then to close the bracelet, I just put it in the clasp. Okay. All right. So you notice that the clasp is lying flat, which it's not. I put it in the wrong way. Hang on just a second. Okay, there we go. Clasp is lying flat and the ring lies out to the side. And I don't know why all of a sudden, this is my problem for today. Okay, shouldn't be any issue with this whatsoever. Here we go. There we go. Okay, so the clasp is lying flat, which is good because you want it lying flat against your wrist. And then the ring is sticking up. So that's one finish there. And again, you know, not necessarily my favorite because there's just a lot of space right in here. Okay, hello, Meek. How are you? Okay, and so there's that one. Okay, so the other bracelet I have here is a 4mm chain, bright silver, and I have used 3 strands of 1.5mm, the silver, the gray, leather, metallic. So this is like a really elegant looking piece here. And I've also used the 1mm, same color, to do the weaving. So really simple. Okay, so this one I can do something a little different. Now I have a loop on this side already, right there. So I can make use of that. So what I'll do to start this is I will cut the leather right down to that first little row of weaving, and I will put a little bit of glue on it. There we go. Put a little too much, so I gotta wait for a second. So there's one side. The other side I'm gonna do something different. Okay, well, and before I even do that, I wanna show you something. So say you're weaving along and you realize you're going to run out of leather, okay? It happens to all of us, and this is frustrating. You don't want to start your whole project over again. So here is the fix for that. So this is what I've got right now, and I'm going to put this end, now it's on the bottom, so I'll run it, whoopsie daisy, that was my little thing from earlier, okay, that I was splicing it in there. Okay, here we go. Come on. Okay, well, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to splice the leather, and this is not behaving. I think I might want to go ahead and use, there it goes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and bring this end up over through the loop. This is my short end, and I want to extend it. And I want to bring it through that loop. Okay, now I'm going to cut it right here, okay? So what I'll do is I'm going to pull it just a little bit snug. Get those cutters out here. Pull it just a little bit snug, and then I'm going to cut it, and then as I let the pressure off, it's going to sort of slip back. I know that's really hard to see, and I apologize for, okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit it with some glue, like right off the bat here, okay. And then I will take another piece of leather, okay, and I am going to put a little glue on that. There we go. And stick it right in that link. And it's going to be tight because I've already got 2 pieces of leather in there. But you are going, oh, wrong one. That's probably why it didn't work. There we go. Okay, and you have to kind of fiddle with this a little bit because they really want to come out. But I've done this before and it really does work. So I'm kind of just splicing the 2 pieces in there. So that is how you can add a piece of leather if you need to your bracelet. There we go. Okay. So on the other side here, and I'm going to go ahead and just make this one short. We'll cut it right here. So I'm going to cut my links. Come on. And this is tough chain. So, and sometimes you really are better just pulling the links apart. There we go. There's one. There's the other. I'm pulling them apart. There we go. So this is what I've got at the end here. Go ahead and cut this off. Okay, so what I can do now, in fact, I think I'll bring it down one more and just make this super simple. Okay, come on, there we go. Well, okay, you just gotta, it's field expediency here. Sometimes you just have to adjust things as you go. Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut these 2 ends off here. Now what I can do now is I can actually make a loop with these ends of leather right here. So, and I don't necessarily want those little rings sticking up there. I can have them if I want, but what I can also do is take my cutters and cut, and this I'm gonna really take some pressure, okay? Come on, baby, okay? There we go. There's one. It's just cut right off there. And I should have glued my leather in before I did that. Come on, baby. Okay. Let's go ahead and do that before I go any further here. Okay. A little bit of glue here, a little bit of glue there. And then what I'm going to do is I will cut the center strand off flush with that top row. There we go. And I am going to cut this strand actually down about 2 or 3 weaves. So I'm going to cut it off right there. Come on. Come on there. Is it off yet? Not quite. There we go. There we go. Okay. And then what I will do is take this other strand here and I'm going to weave it back down until it is, apologize for the camera, back down, okay. And again, it's going to be pretty tight. One of the things I love about cutters is a lot of times I will use it to actually grab the leather and pull it through. It just, those little tips just, and if you don't pull too tight, there we go. So I've got a loop now, okay? There's that loop, okay? And I'm going to now cut this off flush with my other little piece of leather. Okay, come on, there we go. And then I'm just going to hit that little section with some glue. And I have a really pretty clean looking loop on the other end. So in this case, I can just attach, okay, let's put that up there. I can just attach, let me get all this stuff out of the way, using a 4mm jump ring. I can attach the clasp to my loop on this side, okay? And because of the way the leather is going, it's going to be in exactly the right direction. I could hit that with a second jump ring if I wanted. There's the clasp, and then it just goes right into this loop. Okay, there we go. So that looks pretty good. That's a good finish. The other thing I could do here is I could cut all of this off, and I've cut this one loop off already, and I would cut this other loop off here, is I can use, and before I do that, I can actually use some probably 6mm jump rings and attach this clasp to either one of those loops. So that's a whole nother way to finish the bracelet, is just to use these clasps. And you know, usually I get upset when you have a hole that's not filled, but because of the chain being all kind of open weave like this, then it really looks pretty good. So that's a whole nother way to finish it, and I actually really like this method. So okay, so 3 different closures on that. What kind of questions do we have? Any questions here? We've got this bracelet, we've got our brown bracelet, great for a guy, and working on a couple more here. Just let us know if you have any questions. Thank you so much for your time. Again, I will be coming on next week to show you some samples with the ball chain in there. You won't need to see the method again. And we've got some more exciting projects coming up. So thank you again for your time, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.